Hi everyone, thank you for checking out today's Multiphonic a Day or Multiphonic Every Now and Then as it's more appropriately called now. This is Multiphonic Every Now and Then number 3, and I'm really excited to have one of my bassoon heroes, Rebekah Heller, on to share one of her favorite multiphonics. Rebekah is the bassoonist and co-artistic director of the International Contemporary Ensemble. Thanks so much for doing this.
Ah, so happy to be here. Multiphonics are my favorite.
Same, same. So, can you tell us a little bit about the one that you're going to show today?
Yeah, and I hope that this hasn't been shown. I haven't heard it, but you never know.
Yeah.
I want to double dip. So you can tell me to veer off course and choose another one.
I was gonna...
Ah! My favorite these days is the multiphonic that you can sag into from a high D on the bassoon, which
Oh,
is the
nice.
top line treble clef.
Hmm.
A whole step above rite of spring C.
Yeah.
And I love that it has this really ethereal quality. And I especially love that you can play this really pure tone of the D and then just kind of like sag into its
Hmm.
resultant multiphonic. It's very
Yeah.
satisfying.
Yeah. And so, are you just using your standard D fingering for that?
Right. The
Yeah.
standard D fingering with a pretty, like a crappy beginner bassoon embouchure.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Anyone can do it.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Awesome. Let's hear it.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the D actually, and then
Uh-huh.
sag into it.
Cool. Yeah. I love those. Like those in a way are my favorite multiphonics on the bassoon because there is that ability to just sneak in and out of them.
Yeah,
If,
it's
I mean,
so magical.
yeah, yeah. And I think composers really love that too, to have that easy bridge between just a single pitch
Yeah.
and then that really rich harmonic world.
Yeah, and
Uh,
then there's no complicated fingerings to write in.
right, right.
The D.
Yeah. And
And
so
then you can play around with like the church chord multiphonic sequence, which is just the D and then the C sharp one.
I love that. Yeah. And like usually I think about it's like, oh, where did I discover this multiphonic in the first place? But it's like, I discovered this multiphonic the first time I tried to play a high D, right?
Yeah.
Because it didn't come out, and probably many times after that as well. So are you like when you're dipping into the multiphonic, are you thinking of just manipulating the embouchure? Like, are you moving where you are on the reed, or are you just kind of like opening and closing your jaw?
I am, yeah, it's more of a just a relaxing inside my mouth.
Hmm.
So, we think of our mouths are really just the sort of resonating chambers for any
Hmm.
sound, which is the bassoon is just a large version of that, right?
Hmm.
So, because you need relatively a little bit more tension in the upper register of the bassoon, the
Yeah.
slightest adjustment, the slightest relaxation inside the mouth really causes that to sag, which is why high notes are so hard for young bassoonists to get out because they require
Right.
so much control and so much focus. And so
Yeah.
the least bit of veering away from that will just naturally let it sag into its own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you find that so I mean, basically any of the pitches from maybe E flat or E up to the D, and maybe even higher ones than that, like that works really well. Do you find that there are any pitches in there where you end up using alternate fingerings from what you would usually use?
I sneak some in.
Okay, yeah,
I think the A natural and the B flat can be a little bit swirly.
yeah,
I generally just add the pancake key
yeah,
and maybe like an E flat trill finger, something like that, to help it
yeah, yeah.
ground. And I also
Those
add
are,
the pancake key for the E
yeah, yeah,
octave.
yeah. I do the same thing, and those are like the two trickiest ones for me as well. And it's like I remember so clearly, I think it was 2017, the first summer that I was at Banff for the ensemble evolution with you. You were giving this bassoon demonstration, and you said like you're like, oh, anytime I can't get a multiphonic to work, I immediately just like start throwing down the pinky keys and start throwing down the pancake key. And it was just like, and it was just like, I was just like, oh my god, like that's, you know. And so it's like now, anytime that I encounter something that doesn't just come out, I'm like, okay, you know, like of course I try and mess around with like my embouchure and the voicing a little bit,
Yeah.
but you know, also with like the fact is that just all our bassoons and our reeds and our vocals and our mouths and our lungs are so different, that just like a small change like that, I feel like can.
I know, it's so funny too that we're sort of reticent, sort of, you know, in the conservatory style training, we're reticent to like fuck with the fingering, right? As
Yeah.
if there's only one way to do something.
Right.
And I think just the slightest encouragement to be like, actually, that was just one person's opinion about like how best to make this note come out
Yeah.
of the bassoon, but like there's like a million different ways to
Yeah.
play any different note because you have
Yeah.
so many keys.
Right. Well, I mean, like you use a different F sharp fingering depending on the context, right?
Right.
Or like, you know, that different C sharp fingering. So it's like, you know, I don't see why we wouldn't do the same thing for multiphonics.
Totally.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Do you have any like
Yeah.
overarching multiphonic thoughts to share with the greater public?
I mean, just that like they're not hard and they're really fun. I think there's this misconception. We can keep it that way. We can keep
Right.
it between us.
Right.
But you know, I think because on other instruments they are really hard. Like clarinet is really hard, and you're singing and
Yeah.
very fragile dyads that sneak out. And on the bassoon, you know, we can make a lawnmower sound like on any reed,
Right.
any day,
Right. Right.
no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah, like our instrument is so acoustically imperfect that it's just like it lends itself so well to these things.
It just
So,
wants to like splay out across the spectrum.
right, right. So we'll you know we'll take what we can get. If that's the one thing that's easier for us, like great, you know. Yeah.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.